Welcome back to Mini Movies. Today, I am going to explain an action thriller film from 2008, titled Terra. Zhilin is looking for a safe place to camp, on the icy hills of a remote island. He hikes for miles, until he trips, and falls into a chilly river. But he manages to climb out, and continues his trip. When he becomes too exhausted to continue, he takes a break, against a large rock. He eats a flower, and recalls how it all began. Zhilin is serving a life sentence, for the murder of 6 men. He is brought to meet the prison governor one afternoon. He is then asked, what he dreams for. He isn't the only one, who is dealing with this. His other fellow inmates, are also being taken to the governor's office, and asked the same question. Moryak wants to see the sea. Yakut wants to watch the battle with China. Obezyanka refuses to speak. Obezyan wants to work in this prison, and become a governor. Tolya wants to follow the growth of the space station. Sipa wants to see women again. But Zhilin's reply is never made clear. The governor informs them, that they have been chosen to be moved, to a penal colony. Later, all of the inmates are boarded into a ship. The convicts are divided into groups, and placed in cells, just like in a real prison. However, Obezyan acts like, he is the boss. He even kills a man, to take his bed. When the door is finally closed and the boat departs, the inmates become anxious. They believe, that this is all a setup, to let them die at sea. Soon, the men become more violent. Zhilin recalls a conversation he had with Sipa in jail. Sipa had serious mental problems. So he would constantly doodle on the wall, and mumble rubbish. However, that day, he said that heaven and hell, didn't have any seats remaining. As a result, a third purgatory-like area, is being prepared for them. Zhilin ignored it, as more of his typical stupidity. But he's beginning to realize the meaning in it now. After a while, everyone settles down. They start passing the time, by speaking and eating. Soon, in the middle of the trip, a gang comes out from their cells. They were searching for their teammate. Obezyan comes forward to discuss it. But actually he just kills the man they're looking for. This triggers a riot between the prisoners. They begin assaulting, and killing each other, through the bars, except Starry. He is an elderly man, who remains behind praying. However, the conflict is short-lived, as the guards arrive on time. A warning shot is fired to stop them. To knock them all out, they also throw a sleeping gas bomb. They eventually arrive on a deserted island. The inmates are placed in numbered handcuffs. They are left to the beach to wait. The heads of the Terra project, Mr. Olafsson and Marta, give a speech. All countries have abolished the death penalty. As a result, prisons have run out of room, to keep such a high number of criminals. That is why the Russian government has agreed, to provide land for the project to begin. Some international organizations have also contributed to its funding. The inmates are now colonists, who are under their care. They will be given all they need to live. The food supply is expected to last 3 months. They will be constantly monitored by a satellite. There are also some communication buoys in the area. They can take a boat to one of them, and hit the red button in an emergency. If you see a green light, it implies your request has been accepted. Obezyan isn't pleased with the thought, of being monitored 24/7. As a result, he protests by throwing a large rock. With a few warning shots, the guards soon make him back up. Marta clarifies, that they can also use buoys, to ask to leave the project. Simply state their name, and the reason for their resignation. They will be sent back to prison if they do so. Instead of being placed on the shore, the buoys are set in the sea. Because of this, the inmates will think twice, about endangering their lives on a boat. Is this really meant for their betterment? The guards leave a handful of keys on the sand before leaving. They explain, that their handcuffs are numbered, to connect to their digits. The inmates rush towards them, struggling for their lives. Zhilin and Sipa stay safely behind. They were mainly collecting the keys, that had been dropped by the others. Starry also decides to stay behind. To keep their enemies out, a gang forms a line around the keys. Another group proceeds to the boxes. They collect the guns that the guards had left behind, and strike back on the crowd. Ali's group eventually gains control of the situation. Ali and Starry, each got a jacket and nice shoes. He then begins selecting a man, to accompany him on the boat. However, as soon as he grabs someone, the rest of the group uses the opportunity to attack him. The fight continues, and dozens of men are killed. Ali is killed by Moryak with a rock, while Starry is killed by Obezyan. To get to the buoy, 3 men board a boat. They do, however, fall into the sea, and drown. All of the remaining inmates proceed to the warehouse, and begin dividing the supplies. Obezyan uses the tools, to get his cuffs open. Zhilin stuffs a backpack with supplies, and grabs a jacket. He listens to Sipa's statement, that the food will not last 3 months. Then he leaves the area, to rely on himself. He is hoping to find a route off the island, which would return us to the beginning of the story. Got a clear picture now? Zhilin starts on an island investigation. He comes to a region, with no snow and a rocky formation, that he can use as a shelter. He sits there, staring at a photograph of his family. In his prison uniform, he hides it. He misses them dearly, and tears well up in his eyes, as he falls asleep. He wakes up later when he hears squealing. The supplies turned out to be full of rodents. They were destroying his food, as well as his bag. When it begins to rain, Zhilin seeks refuge, beneath the rock formation. He starts a fire to keep warm, and to heat some water. He catches a bird, after it stops raining. Sippa discovers him, as he roasts it over the fire. He tries to steal his knife, while chatting with him. But Zhilin sees him, and takes it back. Sippa offers some of the salt he has in stock. In exchange for some meat, Zhilin accepts it. Sippa then proceeds, to gather extra wood. On the rocks, he notices a family portrait of Zhilin. He gave Zhilin's wife a kiss. They roast a bird together later. Sippa walks to the cliff's edge after eating. He claims, he does not jump because he is scared. He questions Zhilin as to why he, too, will not die. It's due to his family, Zhilin explains. He wants to be buried next to them, now that they're dead. And he won't be able to do so, if he dies on the island. The two soon fall asleep. When Zhilin wakes up, he discovers, that Sippa has taken the photograph. He was getting ideas for his lust from it. Zhilin is angry, and he beats him up. He tosses him off the cliff. Sippa, on the other hand, does not die, since he does not fall into the sea. He lands on a hillside, directly beneath him. Even after their quarrel, they continue to travel together. Sippa is easily entertained by the garbage he discovers in the sea. The only living creature they discover in the water is an aquatic centipede. It frightens Sippa. Zhilin is taken aback as he looks around. Among the rocks, he discovers a piece of an aircraft. It only takes a little more climbing up the slope, to locate the full plane. It offers him some hope, because he used to be a pilot. As a result, he'd be able to operate it. Two guys, however, are insufficient to move it. So, for the time being, they return to their refuge. With some matches he got from the warehouse, Zhilin starts a fire. However, something in them produces highly hazardous smoke. He makes his way away from the fire, dragging a sleeping Sippa behind him. But Sippa doesn't wake up. After a few shakes from Zhilin, he eventually regains consciousness. Zhilin realizes that the cold is about to kill them. The two guys make the decision, to return to the base. They were considering stealing some coal from that area. Is returning to base more deadly than snow? Life hasn't been easy for everyone, back at the base. Obezian and his group have the dominant position. They stick to a schedule, while sharing supplies. Obezian even demands, that they refer to him as governor. Living his dream, huh? Anyone who isn't a member of their team, is kept in the barracks. They are only allowed to come out for a short walk, in a fenced-in area. From the watchtower, Estwance yells at them. They'll have to run when they're sent back. Whoever is last, is killed, and afterwards, used as food. Zhilin and Sippa eventually make it to the coal box. They come across the smoking ruins of a fire. They are nearly frozen after walking for so long. As a result, they end up falling asleep, next to the fire. When Sippa hears some noises, he instantly wakes up. The gang is bringing their fresh prisoner over, for roasting. He dashes behind a rock to hide, but Zhilin remains on the ground. So he returns to save him, but it is too late. Obezian soldiers track them down, and catch them. Both of them are returned to base. Obezian considers, what penalty they should receive, for escaping with supplies. Yakut reminds them, that throughout the ship battle, they were on their side. Estwance scoffs at him for interfering. Yakut responds by punching him in the face. As a result, the entire gang joins up, to hit him back. Then, Yakut is assigned to the same barracks, as Zhilin and Sippa. They walk down around the area. Estwance soon announces, that it is time to go, but Zhilin remains. Sippa, on the other hand, returns and drags him inside. They stand there, and watch, as the last man is grabbed, and chained to a pole. As his final wish, he begs for some water. So, before he is murdered, Sippa takes pity on him, and puts a cup to his lips. The group had a talk, later that night. They consider the option of opposing authority. They're unsure, because it could be risky. But Shram urged them, that it's worth a shot. Tolya reveals a hidden trap to Obeziankit the next morning. He's installed it in his workshop, to catch any potential thieves. Estwance declares, that it is time to go indoors, after the gang goes for their daily walk. However, only two guys run, while the others stay in place. They all gather, and Yakut tosses a rock at Estwance, to silence him. Zhilin approaches Obezian and proposes a deal. He'll tell him the position of the jet he found, if he lets them go to the buoy and ask for food. Obezian agrees to the idea and lets them leave. Tolya and Zhilin board the boat, with the other two. Meanwhile, Obezian asks his soldiers whether they have any information regarding Zhilin. They tell him he used to be a pilot. In a plane crash, his entire family died. He was sentenced to prison for using a rifle to murder flight dispatchers at an airport. Murder in a state of extreme emotional tension was the diagnosis for this crime. Zhilin, according to Obezian, has a guilty conscience. He cancels the deal since the boat is far enough away. He tells the rest of the party to return to the barracks. Yakut tries to confront them, but is killed right away. Obezian catches one more man, before announcing the game is on again. The gang made the decision to return to the barracks. As Obezian's men are armed, fighting would be a horrible idea. Meanwhile, one of the men falls over at sea. They manage to grab him in time, and drag him back up. Tolya arrives at the buoy, and calls for help. But they realize it's broken. Plus, none of his tools are going to help. They return to the beach. Obezian receives word from Zhilin that food is on its way. Because there was no green light of confirmation, Obezian does not believe him. Tolya reminds him of the plane, but Obezian isn't reasonably sure of that. Obezianka, on the other hand, begins to move around with his arms spread, as if he is a plane. Obezian is distracted by this, and grabs him by the neck, so Tolya takes advantage of the opportunity to attack him from behind and kill him. Emirbek and Arzhanov, two more members of his gang, kill the rest of their gang. Before they can catch him, the Estwants vanish. They question Zhilin as to what they should do next. He orders the men to be released from the barracks. He promises the food is on the way. Because the light was damaged, they couldn't see it. The men, on the other hand, remain doubtful. They remind him that they have enough bodies to eat in the first place. Tolya, on the other hand, believes they should be buried. Emirbek and Arzhanov finally accept, after Zhilin reminds him of the plane. The captives are set free. They are informed that the food will be delivered in a few days. However, they will no longer eat each other. As a result, everyone must remain calm and cooperative. They'll also assign a team to restore the plane. They'll construct a hangar and gradually fix it in order to escape later. Sipa immediately interrupts their plans, stating that there is no satellite. He double-checked it by using sand and 3 bodies to create an SOS message. Sometime later, Estwants returns to the base. The new rule says no violence, so they decide to ignore his past actions and share their food with him anyway. Zhilin guides a group of men towards the plane. Their moods greatly increase when they see he's been telling the truth. Together they take it apart for easier transport. They carry the pieces back to base. Eventually, Marta arrives at the island, with a bunch of guards. They use gas to keep all the men away, except Zhilin. They allow Zhilin to come to talk to her, and discuss the list of things they've requested. She's confused on why they're asking for gas. He explains it's for the generators, which are actually wind-powered. But they don't work during the polar night. In truth, they want the gas for the plane. Zhilin takes the chance to ask why they didn't answer Sipa's SOS message. Marta explains, their satellite is of the infrared kind. They see heat, so they can locate people and stoves, but not words. She also wants to know what people were doing, so far away from the base. He tells her they were fishing. They don't believe him because there's no fish in the area. So he lies again and tells them they've been eating those centipedes. They also want to know how many of the original 206 colonists are left. Zhilin finds it suspicious because they should be able to tell with their satellite. He tells them 87 are left, and many are sick. But nobody wants to abandon the project and return to jail. Before Zhilin leaves, Mart tells him he has the right to one personal request. So he gives her a few sheets of paper. The guards leave the new supplies. Zhilin and his men try the gas in the plane, hidden in the hangar. Fortunately, it does work. After the guards and Marta leave the island, they watch a new group of American prisoners arrive. These prisoners have a leader too, a very large man. Zhilin tries to shake hands with him, but the man doesn't take it. Instead, he hits Zhilin. It triggers a fight between both sides. The encounter is brutal, and nobody hesitates to go for the kill. So Sipa drags Zhilin with him, to hide him in the workshop. One of the Americans tries to follow them. But he falls into Talia's trap, and instantly dies. Arzhanov goes up against the American leader, and is almost defeated. But before he can get killed, Emirbek cuts in, and kills the big man. The buildings around them catch on fire. All this is being watched by the heads of the project. They realize the situation is finally out of control. Plus, over 40% of the colony has been killed. Then, Marta calls the central office. She orders to proceed with Code Naked Island, and burns Zhilin's letters. A bunch of guards arrive on the island. Luckily, a few men are still alive. They were hidden in the mountains, or the hangar. Zhilin, Sipa, Arzhanov, and Tolya, together push the plane out, and about to board it, suddenly Sipa tells them goodbye, and runs to the hills. He jumps into the ocean, saying he's not afraid anymore. The remaining trio gets in the plane. Zhilin manages to make it take off safely. The guards shoot at them on their way. His two companions die, but Zhilin isn't hit by the bullets. So he flies away into his freedom. Exploring in the forest, the children find a mysterious egg in a cave. When they break it, to find out what's inside, the whole world stops, except them. Will they enjoy the freedom they got, or will crave for a normal life? Will they ever get out of this cage? Click on the video, appearing on screen, to watch this video to find out. If you liked the movie, consider sharing it with your friends. Show them, you found a great movie today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.